Hello, I'm Paul Bowen, BA Primary Year 2 Cohort Leader at the Crewe campus.
And I'm Lynn Howdall, BA Year 2 Cohort Leader for School-Based Training at the Didsbury campus. First of all, an extremely big thank you to all of you teachers who have offered to accommodate our students. It is a very big thank you. We appreciate the partnership that you work in with us here at MMU.
We'd like to just give you some information about what the Year 2 students have done so far in terms of school-based training. Last year, for example, each student spent a year in a pod of 3 students within a single school. During the year, there were a variety of day visits plus 3 blocks of placement, whereby they experienced teaching in different year groups. There was a strong emphasis on the observation of children and teachers, and then they progressed to group teaching and finally whole class teaching. The Year 2 students this year have already had some school-based training. Firstly, they have had a non-assessed placement in a Key Stage 3 setting within a secondary school. The main focus there has been looking at transition from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3. And during day visits, they've focused on reading recovery strategies with individual children. In addition to placement in Key Stage 3, the Year 2 students have also had an SEN placement. This was for 2 weeks, and it was either in mainstream primary schools or in special schools.
Year 2 students have or are still studying 4 units of study this year. One is their specialism unit, in which they choose a subject or an area to specialise in. This could be a subject like mathematics or DT, or it could be an area like special needs. They've also got a unit which follows foundation subjects, which is self-explanatory, and a unit which focuses on teaching studies, focusing on areas like inclusion and diversity within the classroom. The core unit, which is mathematics, English, science and computing, has focused on assessment this year, and for that the students are doing an assignment which will require them to have some input in the first 3 weeks of their school-based training in order to be able to write their core assignment during the Easter holidays. These are the dates for this school-based training. Preparation week starts Monday, March the 3rd through to Friday, March the 7th, and this is, as it states, a week in which the students are preparing for their main block. There should be contact with the university tutor by the 7th of March. The students will then have a whole week off, not in school and not in university, during which they should be preparing for their school-based training to start. Their block placement starts on Monday the 17th of March through to Friday the 4th of April. There will then be 3 weeks off. That is the university 3-week break. And all school holidays for the Easter break fall within the 3 weeks that the students will be off for their university break. Your student might in fact decide to come into school in the week that you are there but university isn't. However, we are mindful of the fact that the students have 2 assignments to hand in during that 3-week Easter block. The second part of the block placement is Monday the 28th of April through to Friday the 23rd of May. So that will be 7 full weeks in school after the preparation week. The interim report will be the week beginning the 31st of March. The final report will be the week beginning the 19th of May. And on Friday the 2nd of May, which is the Friday before the first bank holiday in May, the students will not be in school because they will be coming into university for their personal tutor group tutorials.
There are 2 handbooks which are relevant to this placement. Firstly, there is the BA Year 2 SBT handbook, which is specific to this particular placement, and this is where there is detailed information about the requirements and expectations of the students, and also there is a strong focus on the roles of the university tutor and school tutors. So the key questions relating to this placement can be accessed from the Year 2 handbook. Secondly, there is also a generic school-based training handbook. This relates to all our undergraduate placements and also contains a lot of useful information which can be accessed easily. It is important to emphasise that there is a strong level of support for students. First of all, school tutors, who are mainly the class teachers, have a key role in the placement and will have the main day-to-day contact with our students. There are also often mentors within schools who have an overview of teacher training within their schools, and these mentors can also play an important part in supporting our students. And finally, there are the university tutors who also provide support for students. The university tutors will be visiting schools in the interim report weeks and also will be coming in during the final week of the placement to discuss the final report. It is important that students are fully aware that there is considerable support for them on placement if there are any issues or problems. An overview of the responsibilities of school tutors, mentors and university tutors can be found in the placement specific handbook on pages 15 to 17. I think it is important to emphasise that the main support on a day-to-day basis for students will be from the school tutor in terms of providing support in terms of teaching, planning and also in terms of observing lessons and completing record of lesson observations. The university tutor has an important monitoring and moderating role. I would like to emphasise that if a student does have problems on the placement, obviously these can be discussed in the school context with the school tutor, but it might well be that the student might want to contact the university tutor to discuss the issue at a university level. And it might well be that personal tutors and the cohort leader might be involved in any discussions.
Right, to go through the placement week by week. In week 2, which is the week which begins Monday, March the 17th, the students should be teaching 50% of the time. 20% of this will be whole class teaching and 30% of the time they will be teaching a group of children or team teaching alongside yourselves. The focus will be on the core subjects. Week 3, it'll still be 50% of teaching, but it will move to 30% whole class teaching and 20% team and group teaching. And in week 4, still 50% teaching, but 40% will be whole class and 10% will be team group teaching. Just to reiterate that the focus for the students will be on the core subjects, English and maths particularly, because they will need to be delivering a series of lessons or a scheme of work in their core subjects in order to be able to write their core assignment during the Easter holidays. The students will have information on this. In week 5, it'll be 60% teaching, 40% whole class and 20% team group, and the focus there will then be on core and foundation subjects. In week 6, it will be 60% teaching again, 50% whole class teaching and 10% team and group, and again for core and foundation subjects. In week 7, we would want the students to be teaching 60% of the time, 50% whole class and 10% team and group. And in week 8, we would like the students to be teaching 60% of the time, and it should be mostly whole class teaching.
The teaching requirements during the block placement are progressive, so that by the interim visit, students should be teaching 50% of the timetable, and by the final visit that should have increased to 60% with mainly whole class teaching. In addition to their teaching responsibilities, Students are allocated 10% of the timetable for file time, and 30% of the timetable is allocated for professional development. Students have to complete detailed files, and they have specific details about various sections which they have to complete. In terms of their files, 10% of their timetable should be allocated to developing those files, and that will involve planning, evaluating lessons, and critically reflecting on progress. We want the files to be detailed working documents which are of practical use to the students, and there are checklists which indicate to students what the files need to contain. Apart from their file time, we have an allocation of 30% of the timetable to professional development. Now, this is a very important aspect of the placement because it enhances the students' experience of the school by giving them a wider sort of professional understanding of how the school works. So there are a variety of activities that students might do in this context. This might include going into other year groups, observing other lessons, working on university tasks, because the placement does link into university assignments, and there should be plenty of opportunity for children to make observations of children which can link into their assessment portfolio, and we also encourage students to undertake activities such as display work. Their professional development time should be logged within the file. And it is important that students really do get a whole school experience and that they don't just focus on the particular classroom context.
The students are expected to use the MMU planning pro forma, which is on the partnership website. If a student is graded as outstanding in planning at interim, they may then be allowed to use the school planning pro forma. But until that point, and only if a student is outstanding, we do ask that they use the MMU forms because they have all the elements that we need to see that the student is considering in their planning. We expect our students to plan for differentiation, and they need to be specific. They should be planning for additional adults in all taught sessions, and that includes teachers. So if your student is delivering the session, the teaching session, and they have planned that session, and they are expecting you, the teachers, to be working with a group of children, they should have planned work for you to do as well, even though you are the teacher of the class. There is a separate EYFS planner also available on the partnership website in the handbooks. And the student should also be producing a scheme of work or a series of set lessons for the core assignment, which has been discussed before.